the strategy of Netanyahu to prop up Hamas, which is widely reported, and I saw you nodding at that. I think there's no denying it at this point. But it's hold on.
And humiliated Abu Mazen at the same time.
Right. So, but let's talk about this a little bit, because I think this all kind of ties together here, and it's one of the points that Dennis just made, where you said, look, Israelis don't want to occupy these territories, and that certainly is true. This is my point about being collectivist versus individualist. That is true for many, many Israelis. There are lots of them who were very happy. They were all behind Yitzhak Rabin. Let's make a deal. We don't want to be occupying these guys anymore, right? But then there's also members of the Likud party and people like Benjamin Netanyahu, and one of the explicit reasons, which he has stated in his own words and many high-level Israelis, I could read quotes to you guys for the next hour if you want. They've all said it. The reason why they wanted to prop up Hamas was not only, as Cenk said, so that the international community would never recognize Palestinians, but so that those Israeli citizens wouldn't be able to put pressure on them. Because if it was the PA in charge, so many people in Israel would say, hey, they want to make a deal, let's make a deal. And so the Likud party cynically, intentionally funded and propped up this terrorist organization that is every bit as bad as you've said, Mr. Prager. I agree with you on that. But here's the deal, right? So if that's true, which we all know is true, if that's true that the Likud party propped up Hamas so they wouldn't face internal pressure and they wouldn't face external pressure to give the Palestinians their freedom, then I'm sorry, that blows up the Israeli defense for this war, that, hey, it sure does suck that we got to kill these innocent people, but we got to get these Hamas. You propped up Hamas so that these innocent people would never get their freedom. You don't then get to use that group as an excuse for why you can slaughter them. Sorry, no reasonable person can defend that.
For the record, so that.
What's going on, everyone? Starskin here today, and we're going to be analyzing what the hell just happened. Early Friday morning, I believe, Israel decided to launch attacks at Iran. I think it's been no one's been able to confirm whether Israel is able to hit any of their targets or hit any of their nuclear sites. Apparently, there was explosions near the nuclear sites. You can see that airplanes mid-air, some about to land on Iran. They're on their way out. And I opened up with that video in the beginning because there's a lot of politics being played with this war. I honestly believe that Netanyahu, Israel, they're like that kid on the block that, you know, they have the best, biggest, toughest kid on the block is their big brother, and they know that they can mess around with everybody because of fear of, not because of the fear of them, but who was behind them. And Israel seemingly seems to be doing this stick where they feel like they can do whatever they want because they're the little brother of America, right? And it seems like they're attacked at the hip for all stuff. Now, as an American, people will say, "Okay, they're our allies," but there's one difference between being an ally and being someone's like guardianship, and that's why it seems like America is coming across to me in these foreign affairs, right? We give money to Israel just because, like, I don't know why we giving $4 billion to them every year or every month. I don't know how often, but I know we're funneling money into Israel. I thought Israel can take care of itself. But why are we giving them? We've been giving them consistent foreign aid throughout their existence, it seems like. That's not ally stuff. That's not ally type stuff. I don't know. Allies, I thought you give, your line. If something happens, you step in. But to give constant support, I know they're constantly attacked as well. But Dave Smith kind of highlighted something that is starting to arise in me. I'm starting to become more skeptical of Israel now. And it's not because of, I believe whatever. What's shaming tactics that people like Ben Shapiro will say to people like me for questioning the motives of a state. Corruption is everywhere, right? And Israel is not like immune to that skepticism because all governments are corrupt. Some are more corrupt than others. And I believe that Israel launching an attack at Iran, to this next clip, Biden to Iran, don't. Iran strike at Israel, Biden to Israel, don't. Israel strikes back at Iran. I'm starting to think that it wasn't the best idea to install a demented vegetable to be leader of the free world. Now, Adam Smith, go on, because this was a zero hedge a debate between, I believe, Dennis Prager, David Smith with what's his name? I forgot the guy's name. Cenk. Yo, I got caught up in that. But before I go in, I want you guys to check out this clip that I seen from Glenn Greenwald, because there's a timeline that you need to be aware of. Because I saw what Daily Wire posted that out. They didn't highlight this, and Glenn Greenwald did. April 2nd, Israel launched attacks at I believe a Syrian embassy. I forgot it was associated with Iran. I don't know the specifics of it. The only thing I do know is that these generals was at not asylum. I forgot what it was called. An embassy, which is considered soil of U.S. land. So this attack that Israel did on April 2nd could be akin to them attacking Iran soil. And there's no skepticism about that. There's no questioning of motives about that. And that's the problem we have, like a lot of people have with Ben Shapiro, is he's filtering out certain information that may not look optically good on Israel. Now, you could say that, hey, Iran launched a proxy war. We know Iran's behind it. But you launch an attack on essentially their soil. So in the scheme of things, you can see that Israel seems to be escalating the war. And this is coming to come back and bite even Dennis Prager, because Dennis Prager said that, oh, we don't want to fight peace. We just want to defend our thing, and that's it. But the action they're taking seems to be wanting to escalate this even higher. And I think this is why support for Israel is waning. But I digress. Let's check out this clip from Glenn Greenwald, and then we'll continue with the Dave Smith, Dennis Prager debate surrounding Israel. Let's take a look.
Always are involved whenever Israel has a new war. But what is happening now is an escalation of the exact kind that has been most concerning from the start, namely a direct military conflict between Israel on the one hand and Iran on the other. And the proximate cause of that potential war is the fact that back on April 2nd, as this AP article reminds us, Israel decided to do something that countries almost never do. They bombed a consulate of another country. They bombed the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria. And they killed 2 generals and 5 other officers. Now, we reported at the time, when we reported on this, we described how extraordinary it is for a country to bomb another country's embassy. Embassies are considered sacred and inviolable. That's the only way that you could have embassies in other countries. And we talked about the fact that Julian Assange was inside the Ecuadorian embassy in London, basically an apartment building, for 8 years. And while he was in there, he was publishing with WikiLeaks all kinds of leaks of classified documents that the United States government believed were damaging to United States security. They knew exactly where Assange was. All they had to do was just go get him, have the British police go get him. And yet, because he had asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy, which is considered Ecuadorian soil, and embassies are considered by all civilized countries to be places that you can't enter, the United States did not invade that embassy, nor did the UK until Ecuador permitted it when they withdrew asylum. An even more extreme case that we covered was in 1984, when the Libyan embassy in London was used by a shooter inside the Libyan embassy. He was shooting at anti-Gaddafi protesters, wounding many of them, and he actually killed a British police officer. That was a case where the Libyan embassy was actually used as a staging ground to shoot and kill people, including a British police officer, on the streets of London. And there too, the British did not invade the consulate, the embassy where the Libyans were. In part, it was strategic because the Libyans immediately surrounded the British consulate in Libya to make sure that they basically have leverage, but also because countries don't just go violate embassies. But Israel decided that it could, just like it decides that it can do essentially anything, because it has the world's richest and most powerful country standing behind it no matter what it does. Here from
You seen that, you heard that. As you can see, we're going to go into this debate where Dave Smith and Dennis Prager are going to debate about Israel, the Palestine. It is a more fruitful debate than I expected. You know, I thought since the last Zero Hedge with Destiny, I thought that was going to be an ish show, but it wasn't. And you can kind of hear more of this perspective because now this is hindsight. I think this was a couple days before, maybe 2 days before Israel decided to launch a counterattack. Here's what the conversation was surrounding Israel. Let's take a look, guys.
we are disarming and we will fight no longer. What would happen if the Palestinians said, we are disarming and we will fight no longer? What would happen? If you are intellectually honest, you know the answer to the question. The day after Israel announced it disarmed, you would have an October 7th of the entire population of Israel. There would be finally an actual genocide, not the false accusation of Israeli genocide in Gaza. If the Palestinians announced that, the next day, or perhaps the next week, there would be peace. This is the only time, as the little excerpt I saw when I spoke at Oxford and debated this issue, this is the only case in modern history where people believe the democracy, the free state, the state with an opposition press, an opposition party, civil rights for all its citizens, including its 2 million Arab citizens, the peace-loving state, the democracy, is the aggressor, and the police state that tortures its opponents, they're the good guys. That is how inverted it is. I have a theory as to why everything is inverted.
Yeah, so I understand that sentiment, like hey, like why is Israel expected to show restraint here, right? And I don't believe that, Israel needs to show any restraint when it's retaliating against. This is war. I don't consider it genocide what they're doing to the Palestinian people, but this is the reason why Israel's starting to lose support, is because it's been dragged out so long. Like, okay, like remember Trump gave them a warning. At this point, if Trump gets in office, he's going to try to end this war quickly, because we're expending a lot of money. It's not really to America's best interest that Israel continues this war, this long, drawn-out war. And I understand the hostages hasn't been given back, but here's a theory. What if the hostages are dead already? What if there is no hostages left anymore? I'm being dead serious when I ask this question, because this gives me that vibe. Remember the submarine story that I covered a long time ago? I think it was earlier this like sometime last year. And we would news stories thinking that these people were alive, but this whole time they died. Let's get back into the video.
And I believe it is because it is the one Jewish state in the world. There are 22 Arab states. There are 52 Muslim states. There are 200 states around about that number all over the world. Only one is targeted for extinction. There is no other state targeted for extinction. Only the one Jewish state the size of New Jersey. And so that is the issue. One side wants the other side dead, and it has been true since 1948.
When Mr. Prager says one side wants peace and the other side wants to kill all of these people, it's a very convenient collectivist way to look at things. But the objective reality of the situation here is that there have been atrocities on both sides committed against the other side. This is true throughout the history of the existence of Israel. This is true before the existence of the state of Israel, with the Zionist settlers, the British, the Arabs. There were atrocities committed on all sides. And to say that everybody, as if, or to imply that everybody on the Israeli side just wants peace and everybody on the Palestinian side just wants, that is just not true.
And also, I saw on an article somewhere where it was like the three Israeli leaders, they don't trust each other. We got that going on, but then at the same breath, I remember hearing Ben Shapiro talking about that all of Israel is united behind this war to protect themselves, and I don't know what's true now. This is why I say I don't want America involved in this war. Right? We're getting involved in someone else's fight, and now everyone wants foreign aid. Right? Ben Shapiro finished. I think he had a 14-minute segment on his live show trying to defend foreign aid. Why Mike Johnson is right to continue funding Ukraine, when many people can make the same argument that people are making about Israel for Russia. Now, I'm not saying Russia's right on this, but you did an act of agitation towards Russia. Russia's been warning for years throughout the American foreign policy that, hey, I don't want Ukraine to join NATO because then I perceive that as an approach of the American empire at my border. Don't care about how the facts, the reality. I don't care about all that stuff. The perception of it is what Putin is playing into to justify going into Ukraine, because he saw it as an act of war. Same way that Israel's seeing it as, oh my God, you just attacked us on our, oh, you crazy, that you killed our citizens, and look how far Israel is taking it. But one justification we believe because they are our ally, and one we don't. This is subjective. This is the problem with war. And this idea that, oh, we're so moral, we're so just, it's hard to believe from a governmental level. For me, as a government, if I'm thinking if I'm just evaluating a government's job and role is to protect its interest, not to play moral arbiters of what is right or wrong. All I see is a war, people trying to get hostages back. But I don't know how bringing U.S. troops into Israeli soil is not a way of, oh my God, big bro got to come in. Oh, who fighting my little brother? And this is how it's starting to come across. And I think this is why support for Israel is waning. And I think Tim had a tweet out. I believe within maybe a generation, maybe after my generation, the support of Israel won't be the same as it is with the baby boomers. I'm just saying that right now. Ben can scream, he can cry as much as he want. Ain't looking too good. Because they didn't listen to Trump when Trump said, you got to end this quickly. You dragged out this war. Now more actors are coming in, and now you might drag the United States into World War III. When Nikki Haley, Ben Shapiro, all these other people were saying, oh, no. U.S. won't get dragged into no war. There won't be troops on the ground. Calling Tucker Carlson a conspiracy theory or overreacting or dramatizing the issue that U.S. troops won't be involved in no world war. But are the actions of Israel helping that conclusion or debunking that conclusion? This is why Dave Smith put out this tweet saying that the internet has a long memory, right? If my choppy internet don't work, the internet has a permanent memory. Because versus what the ideals of what you're saying versus the actions you're taking are two very separate, different things. I'll let this play out for one more minute, and then I'll give my final thoughts at the end of it. Let's go.
There are lots of Palestinians who just want peace, and there are lots of Israelis who want their land and are quite willing and will openly, explicitly say they're willing to do whatever it takes to take their land.
I feel that on this entire issue, I'm living in a make-believe world. Every analogy could have been applied to Nazi Germany. There were innocent Germans who were killed by the Allies in the bombing and in invasions and so on. No one denies that. But to point out that there were innocent Germans while the Nazis were in charge is a morally idiotic point. It means nothing. It only means that every innocent German's life that was taken is the responsibility of the Nazis. Every innocent Palestinian life that has been taken is the responsibility of Hamas.
I don't know. I think I could also say the same about Israel. Oh, your incompetence, Israel, is what allowed these January 7th people to come in and kill your innocent people. That's your responsibility. Why America has to be involved? Why America got to give you weapons? Gaza is not much of a threat to you. You guys should be able to handle this without any foreign aid, without any outside materials. Maybe you need some materials. Maybe you don't have enough materials. Sure. But why are we doing all this for something that happened to an individual country, right? If it's morally idiotic to think that way, because essentially the U.S. is kind of doing the same thing for Israel, right? When Nikki Haley was saying that, oh, an attack on Israel is an attack on America, I was like, yo, that's an idiotic point. Wouldn't you say? I know I'm not thinking morally here. I'm thinking more on the functionality. I'm thinking more on the interest of a nation, because I'm a nationalist at the end of the day. I want to care about what's in the best interest of my nation, and I don't see how Israel citizens' lives being lost is the interest of my country. Now, I know they're allies. I can support my allies. I can help my allies. But at this point, it seems like the U.S. is carrying Israel. That's just how I'm taking it, right? Israel's being America's little bro, going out there antagonizing everybody, and everybody don't want to hit back because they know big bro America gonna come in swinging if we do anything to his little bro. And that's how it's coming across on the world stage. At least that's for me. That's the hood analogy, I guess. Right? But, I'm going to let Dennis finish his point. But that's just something I found concerning. Maybe I'm misreading this.
Or Hezbollah. That's it. The analogy is perfect. There is one difference between Hamas and the Nazis. And I never called any group in my 40 years of radio Nazi. I never called an individual that other than the Nazis of the 1940s. But there is only one difference between Hamas and the real Nazis of Germany. The Germans hid their atrocities. Hamas boasts and videos them.
Can I just, I'm just kind of, I'm blown away by the statement that Mr. Prager just made, that the only difference he can see between the Nazis and Hamas is that the Nazis hid their atrocities. So if that's the only difference you can see, I have a few others that pop to mind. The Nazis were a government. The Nazis had an army. The Nazis had an air force. The Nazis had submarines. The Nazis controlled from France to Poland in all of Europe.
Damn, hey, that was a good point. Hey, I ain't gonna lie, he was going in. Good point. I'll probably retweet this video so you guys can see it and check it out for yourselves. But what do you guys think about this whole thing with Israel? Do you think Israel has done the wrong in this? You think Israel's formed, like, seems like they playing 3D chess, 4D chess on Biden and just wants to drag U.S. into a war, support its efforts into expanding its territory? Whatever the theories may be, I would like to hear in the comment section, because right now it can't just be Israel want peace. Dave Smith just is pointing out what a lot of people have been pointing out, that, hey, it's disproportional force, Kenny. Hey, they're coming out a little too strong, right? Palestine is not actual government, it's not an actual state, it's not actually unified. I mean, this, Ben Shapiro says that they elected Hamas as their government, so therefore, through democracy, they elected a terrorist organization. But based on the organization, the force, like, it ain't the same, bruh, is the David Smith's point here. But I'd like to hear your thoughts about it in the comment section. I'm really open-minded about this. Where, like I said, foreign affairs are not my really strong suit. I don't really care about foreign affairs because I'm at the mindset that we need to know how to take care of ourselves first before we go out there into the world and trying to help other people. But I digress. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching to the end of the video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.